The letter sat on the table like a loaded gun. Lavinia Bennet stared at it, her sister's laughter still ringing in her ears. They had done it as a joke, signed her up as a mail-order bride to some rancher in the wilds of Wyoming. They had expected silence, perhaps even mockery. Instead, he had said yes. A stranger wanted her. Plain, invisible Lavinia, the daughter nobody looked at twice. Now she had little time to decide. Stay in this house where she would always be nothing, or step onto a train heading west into a life that terrified her. Some choices are not choices at all. They are escapes. If you are watching this, follow Lavinia's journey to the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you are watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The Bennet farmhouse smelled of burned bread and quiet disappointment. Lavinia stood at the kitchen window, her hands submerged in dishwater that had gone cold an hour ago, watching her sisters parade across the yard in their Sunday dresses. Lillian, the eldest, had her blonde hair pinned in elaborate curls that took an hour to set. Eleanor wore the blue silk that made her eyes look like a summer sky. Even Ivy, barely more than a girl, possessed that effortless grace that made men trip over their own boots at church socials. Then there was Lavinia, a young woman with brown hair that would not hold a curl if her life depended on it. A face her mother once described as pleasant enough in the same tone people used for overcooked vegetables. Not ugly, just unremarkable, forgettable. The kind of woman whose presence people's eyes slid past on their way to something prettier. Lavinia, her mother's voice cut through the kitchen. Those dishes will not wash themselves. Yes, ma'am. She scrubbed at a plate that was already clean, watching through the window as Lillian laughed at something the neighbor's son said. Watched him look at Lillian like she was something precious. Nobody had ever looked at Lavinia that way. She is wool gathering again. That was Eleanor's voice drifting in from the parlor. Honestly, Mother, what are we going to do with her? Hush. Their mother's reply was quieter, but Lavinia heard it anyway. She had gotten good at hearing things she was not supposed to. We will find her something. A widower, perhaps. Someone who needs a housekeeper more than a wife. The plate slipped from Lavinia's hands, clattering into the basin. She steadied herself against the counter, waiting for the familiar ache in her chest to pass. It did not. That night, her sisters hatched their plan. Lavinia heard them whispering in the bedroom they shared, all four of them crammed into a space meant for two. She kept her eyes closed, breathing steady, pretending sleep while they giggled and schemed. It is harmless, Lillian insisted. Just a bit of fun. But what if someone actually responds? Ivy sounded uncertain. To Lavinia, Eleanor's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "Darling, these mail-order advertisements are for desperate men on the frontier. Even they have standards." More laughter. Lavinia pulled the thin blanket over her head, trying to block it out. "I still have that newspaper from last month," Lillian continued. "The one with all those advertisements from out west. Cowboys looking for wives." She dropped her voice into a theatrical drawl. "Hard-working rancher seeks respectable woman for marriage. Must be of good character and strong constitution." "Oh, do it." Eleanor clapped her hands. "Can you imagine some poor rancher expecting a proper wife and getting our Lavinia?" "Lillian, that is cruel," Ivy said, at least possessing some conscience. "It is a joke, silly. He will not respond anyway, and if he does, we will simply tell him there was a mistake. Where is the harm?" The harm was in how easily they did it, how little they thought of her, how completely invisible she had become in her own family. Days later, the letter arrived. Lavinia brought in the mail like she did every afternoon. Mostly bills and the occasional letter from their aunt in St. Louis. But there, among the usual correspondence, was an envelope addressed in unfamiliar handwriting. Miss Lavinia Bennett. Her hands trembled as she turned it over. The return address made her stomach drop. Hale, Wind River Ranch, Wyoming Territory. "What is that?" Lillian appeared at her elbow. Too casual, eyes too bright. Lavinia's fingers tightened on the envelope. "It is for me, from Wyoming." Lillian's voice pitched higher. "Oh, Lavinia, you did not actually—" "Did not what?" Their mother entered the hallway, Eleanor and Ivy trailing behind. The whole family suddenly very interested in Lavinia's mail. "Nothing, Mother." Lillian reached for the letter, but Lavinia stepped back. "It is mine." Her voice came out stronger than she expected. She took the letter to the only place she could be alone, the barn loft where she used to hide as a child. Her hand shook so badly it took 3 tries to open the envelope. The letter inside was written on good paper, the handwriting clean and practical. "Miss Bennett, I received your response to my advertisement. I will be direct, as I expect you prefer the same. I am a rancher who has seen enough of life to know what he needs, owner of the Wind River Ranch in Wyoming Territory. I have a young son. My wife died some years ago. I am not looking for romance. I am looking for someone capable and sensible to manage my household and help raise my boy. In return, I can offer security, a roof that does not leak, and treatment with respect and fairness. The work is hard. The winters are harsh. The nearest town is some miles away, and it is not much to speak of. But the land is mine, the house is sound, and I pay my debts. If you are willing, I will send money for the train fare. If you are not, I will understand and wish you well. Respectfully, Gideon Hale. Lavinia read it 3 times. Then she sat in the hay-scented darkness and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming shock of being seen, even by a stranger, even in such practical terms. Someone had said yes to her. Lavinia. Her mother's voice echoed across the yard. Where is that girl? She folded the letter carefully and tucked it into her apron pocket. Then she climbed down from the loft and walked back to the house where her sisters were waiting, their faces bright with barely suppressed glee. Well? Eleanor demanded. What did it say? You already know what it said. Lavinia met Lillian's eyes. Since you sent it, Lillian had the decency to flush. It was just a joke. Yes, I understand. Lavinia walked past them into the kitchen. Her hands were still shaking, but her voice stayed steady. He said yes. Silence crashed through the room. What? Their mother's face went pale. The rancher, Mr. Hale, he accepted my application. She almost laughed at the absurdity of it. He is offering marriage. Absolutely not. Her mother's voice cut like a knife. This has gone too far. Lillian, write to him immediately and explain the mistake. What mistake? The words came out of Lavinia's mouth before she could stop them. Her mother blinked. What? What mistake should Lillian explain? Lavinia's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept talking. That her plain sister is not worthy of even a practical arrangement with a stranger. Lavinia, you cannot possibly be considering this. Why not? Something was cracking open inside her chest, something that had been locked down for years. What exactly am I staying for? To wash dishes until my hands crack. To sleep in a crowded bedroom and listen to you discuss which widower might be desperate enough to take me. How dare you? Her mother's face flushed red. She is having hysterics, Eleanor declared. Lavinia, be sensible. I am being sensible. Lavinia pulled the letter from her pocket, smoothed it on the table. Mr. Hale is offering exactly what you have all said I should expect, a practical arrangement with someone who needs a housekeeper. The only difference is he is being honest about it. Lillian stepped forward, and for a moment, something like guilt flickered across her face. Lavinia, I am sorry. We did not think. No, you did not. Lavinia looked at her sisters, these beautiful, thoughtless girls who had never known what it felt like to be invisible. But you have actually done me a favor. You cannot go to Wyoming. Ivy's voice was small. You do not know anything about him. I know he was honest in his letter. I know he needs help. And I know... She stopped, swallowed hard. I know that staying here means becoming exactly what you all expect. The maiden aunt, the extra mouth to feed, the daughter nobody wanted. "That is not true," her mother said, but the protest was weak. "Is it not?" Lavinia met her mother's eyes and saw the answer there. "Write him back. Tell him I accept." "Lavinia, mother, I am a grown woman. I am not asking your permission." The words felt strange in her mouth, like speaking a foreign language. "I am telling you my decision." She walked out of the kitchen before anyone could respond, her legs carrying her back to the barn, back to the loft, where she finally let herself fall apart. What had she just done? In the weeks that followed, as preparations were made, her mother tried half-heartedly to talk her out of it. Her sisters oscillated between guilt and fascination. The neighbors whispered behind their hands at church, but the train ticket arrived along with another letter. "Miss Bennet, I have arranged passage for you on the Union Pacific, departing St. Louis soon. The journey will take several days. I will meet you at the Wind River station. Bring practical clothing and sturdy boots. Leave anything delicate or impractical behind. I look forward to meeting you. See you soon. Gideon Hale." Lavinia packed her trunk with shaking hands. She owned almost nothing of value. A few plain dresses, a winter coat that had been Ivy's before it got too worn, a book of poetry her father had given her before he died. She left her mother's pearl earrings, the ones she had always hoped might be passed to her. They were meant for beautiful daughters. The morning she left, her family gathered on the porch, an awkward, silent assembly. "Write to us," her mother said finally. "Of course." Lavinia climbed into the wagon that would take her to the station. Lillian grabbed her hand through the window. "Lavinia, I am sorry. Truly, if I had known you would actually—" "It is all right." And strangely, it was. "You gave me a way out. I am taking it." The train station in St. Louis was chaos. Steam and noise, and hundreds of people pushing toward different futures. Lavinia clutched her ticket and carpet bag, following the crowd toward the western platform. "First time out west, miss." She turned to find an older woman beside her, weathered face, kind beneath a practical bonnet. "Yes, ma'am. Traveling alone. I am meeting someone in Wyoming." The woman's eyes sharpened with understanding. "Ah, one of those." But there was no judgment in her voice, just recognition. "Word of advice. The frontier is not like back east. Out there, folks judge you by what you can do, not where you came from. Use that." Lavinia thought about that as the train pulled away from everything she had ever known. Thought about it as Missouri blurred into Kansas, Kansas into Nebraska. Thought about it through sleepless nights and cramped passenger cars, through meals of hard bread and questionable coffee. The landscape changed, flattened, opened up into something vast and terrifying. As the days passed, she sat next to a young mother with 2 small children. The woman looked exhausted, her dress patched and repatched. "You heading to Wyoming, too?" the woman asked. "Yes, Wind River. We are going to Cheyenne. My husband's got work on the railroad." She shifted the baby on her lap. "You got family there?" "I am getting married." The woman's eyebrows rose. "You know him?" "No." A long pause. Then the woman laughed, not unkindly, just the laugh of someone who understood desperation. "Well, hell, at least you are honest about it. Most girls make up some romantic story." "There is nothing romantic about it," Lavinia said. "He needs a housekeeper and a mother for his son. I need a home. That is the arrangement." "Fair enough." The woman studied her. "You look sensible. That will serve you better than prettiness out here." She nodded toward the window, where endless prairie stretched to the horizon. "This land does not care what you look like. It only cares if you survive." The train lurched, and the baby started crying. Lavinia found herself holding the woman's other child, a little girl of perhaps 3 years, while the mother settled the infant. "What is your name?" the little girl asked, studying Lavinia with solemn eyes. "Lavinia, that is pretty." Something loosened in Lavinia's chest. "Thank you. Will you have babies with your new husband, Sarah?" The mother's face flushed. "That is not polite." But Lavinia smiled, genuinely smiled, maybe for the first time since leaving Missouri. "I do not know. Maybe he has a son already." "How old?" "Young." The little girl nodded seriously. "That is a good age, old enough to help." Out of the mouths of babes. That night, Lavinia could not sleep. The train rocked and clattered through darkness, carrying her toward a future she could not picture. She pressed her forehead against the cold window and let herself imagine worst-case scenarios. Gideon Hale could be cruel, violent, a drunkard. The son could hate her. The house could be falling apart. The whole thing could be a terrible, irreversible mistake. But even in her darkest imaginings, she could not make herself regret leaving. Finally, the day arrived when the mountains rose in the distance. "The Rockies," the conductor announced. They would reach Wind River by afternoon. Lavinia changed into her best dress, which was not saying much, and tried to tame her hair. Failed, gave up, stared at her reflection in the train's grimy window, and saw what Gideon Hale would see. A plain, tired woman who looked older than her years. She wondered what he looked like, wondered if he would be disappointed. The train slowed. The conductor called out, "Wind River. Next stop, Wind River." Her stomach twisted. This was real. This was happening. The station was barely a station, just a wooden platform and a small building that looked like a strong wind could knock it over. A handful of people waited on the platform, and Lavinia scanned them with rising panic. Which one was he? Then she saw him. He stood apart from the others, hands in his coat pockets, hat pulled low. Tall, taller than she expected, broad-shouldered, with the hard lines of his face making him look weathered by life and sun. Dark hair, clean-shaven jaw, set in what looked like permanent displeasure, and his eyes, gray as winter, were already locked on her. She knew somehow, impossibly, she knew this was Gideon Hale. The train jolted to a stop. Lavinia forced her legs to move, climbing down the steps with her carpet bag clutched in one hand. Her trunk would be unloaded separately. She walked toward him across the platform, aware of every eye watching, every whisper. The train hissed steam behind her, like a dragon. He did not move, just watched her approach with those cold, assessing eyes. She stopped a few feet away. "Mr. Hale, Miss Bennet." His voice was deep, rougher than she expected. Western. He touched the brim of his hat. "Welcome to Wind River." Up close, she could see the details her mind had missed from the train. The scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the so-weathered skin, the calluses visible on his hands. This was a man shaped by hard work and harder weather. "Thank you." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "It is good to finally meet you. Your trunk, the brown one." She blinked at the interruption. "Yes, I will see to it. Wagons this way." He turned and walked toward the baggage area without waiting to see if she would follow. Lavinia stood there for a moment, feeling the first crack in whatever romantic notion she had still been harboring. This was not a meeting. It was a transaction. It was fine. That was what she had signed up for. She followed him to a sturdy wagon hitched to 2 horses. He loaded her trunk without help, lifted it like it weighed nothing, and secured it with practiced efficiency. "Climb up." He nodded toward the wagon seat. She managed it with only moderate clumsiness, grateful her skirts were not as full as Lillian's ridiculous fashion plates. Gideon swung up beside her, taking the reins, and clicked his tongue at the horses. They rolled away from the station in silence. Wind River, the town, consisted of perhaps 20 buildings clustered around a main street. A general store, a saloon, what looked like a church. People stopped to stare as they passed. Gideon did not acknowledge any of them. "How far is the ranch?" Lavinia asked finally. "Some miles northeast." He kept his eyes on the road. "Your letter mentioned a son, Silas. He is young, stays with my foreman's wife during the day, and at night with me." He shot her a sideways glance. "That is why you are here, right? The arrangement." She was hired help with a fancy title. "What happened to your wife?" She felt him stiffen beside her. Childbirth, some years ago. The baby did not make it either. I am sorry. It was some years ago, he repeated, as if that somehow made it matter less. The road climbed into rougher country. Trees gave way to open grassland, grassland to rocky outcroppings. The wind picked up, sharp and cold, cutting through Lavinia's coat like it was not there. "You cold?" Gideon asked. "I am fine. There is a blanket behind the seat." She retrieved it, wrapping it around her shoulders. The gesture was practical, not kind. Everything about this man was practical. "You know how to cook?" he asked. "Yes." "Can?" "Yes." "Handle children?" "I helped raise my younger sisters." He nodded, seemingly satisfied. "The house is clean, but needs a woman's touch. Silas is a good boy, but needs structure. Can you provide that?" "I can." "Good." He fell silent again. Lavinia studied the landscape, trying to find beauty in it. The mountains were stunning, she supposed, in a harsh and different way. Everything here seemed bigger, emptier, more unforgiving than Missouri. "What do you expect from this marriage?" The question came out before she could stop it. Gideon's jaw tightened. "I expect you to run my household, care for my son, and manage things so I can focus on the ranch. I expect honesty and hard work." "And what should I expect from you?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, for the first time. Those gray eyes swept over her face, cataloging and dismissing in one glance. Food on the table, a roof that does not leak, no violence, no drinking, no mistreatment. Respect as much as can be given. He paused. "And privacy, if you want it." Privacy. She understood what he meant. Separate bedrooms. A marriage in name only. Something in her chest twisted, though she could not say if it was relief or disappointment. "That seems fair," she managed. "Good." Another stretch of road passed in silence. "Why did you agree?" Lavinia asked suddenly. "To me, I mean. There must have been other responses to your advertisement." His mouth quirked. Not quite a smile, but close. "There were several, in fact." "Then why?" "Your letter was honest." He shrugged. "The others were full of poetry and promises. Yours just said you could cook, clean, and handle ranch life. No false expectations." "I did not write that letter," Lavinia admitted before she could think better of it. Gideon's head turned sharply. "What?" "My sisters wrote it as a joke." The whole story came tumbling out, her family's cruel prank, their shock when he responded, her desperate decision to come anyway. When she finished, she braced for anger. Instead, Gideon laughed. It was a rusty sound, like he did not use it often, but it was genuine. "So, you are here on a dare." "I am here because I chose to be." Lavinia met his eyes. "Whatever their intentions were, this is my decision now." He studied her again, and this time she saw something shift in his expression. Not warmth exactly, but maybe respect. All right, then. He turned back to the road. We will make it work. The ranch appeared as they crested a hill, a sprawling operation of corral, outbuildings, and a 2-story house that looked solid and well-maintained. Cattle dotted the surrounding fields. Men worked in the distance, their shouts carrying on the wind. "This is it," Gideon said. "Wind River Ranch. Vast acres, a solid herd of cattle, several hired hands." Lavinia tried to process the scale of it. This was not a farm. This was an empire. A small figure burst from the house as they approached. A boy with dark hair and his father's gray eyes sprinted toward the wagon. "Pa!" Gideon's entire demeanor changed. His face softened, his posture relaxed. "Hey, Silas." The boy skidded to a stop beside the wagon, staring up at Lavinia with open curiosity. "Is she the new ma?" "Miss Bennett," Gideon corrected gently. "She will be staying with us." "Hi." Silas tilted his head. "You are not very pretty." "Silas." Gideon's voice sharpened, but Lavinia surprised herself by laughing. Really laughing. "No, I am not. But I make very good biscuits." The boy's face lit up. "Better than Martha's. I guess you will have to judge that yourself. Come on." He grabbed her hand, tugging her toward the house. "I will show you everything." Lavinia climbed down from the wagon, letting this enthusiastic child pull her forward. Behind her, she heard Gideon unloading the trunk, but she did not look back. The house was bigger inside than it looked. Clean but sparse, functional but cold. No curtains on the windows, no rugs on the floors, no warmth anywhere. It was a house that had forgotten how to be a home. Silas dragged her from room to room, narrating with the confidence of a tour guide. "This is the kitchen. Pa says it needs better storage. This is the parlor. We never use it. This is my room. I have a magnifying glass. This is..." He stopped at a closed door. "This was my ma's sewing room. We do not go in there." "All right," Lavinia said softly. He led her upstairs. "This is Pa's room. And this?" He pushed open another door. "This is yours." The room was small but clean, with a narrow bed, a dresser, and a window overlooking the eastern pasture. Someone, Gideon probably, had left a pitcher of water and fresh linens on the bed. "It is perfect," Lavinia said, and meant it. Footsteps on the stairs announced Gideon's arrival. He set her trunk inside the door. "Silas, let Miss Bennett settle in. Can she make biscuits tonight? We will see." But there was affection in his voice. "Go help Jasper with the horses." The boy thundered down the stairs, and then it was just the two of them in this small room. "I will leave you to unpack," Gideon said. "Supper is usually around evening. Kitchen is stocked. Make what you want." "All right." He started to leave, then paused. "Miss Bennett." "Yes." "Welcome to Wind River." This time he almost meant it. After he left, Lavinia sank onto the bed. staring at the walls of her new room, her new life. What had she done? But when she looked out the window at the vast Wyoming sky, something in her chest loosened. Out here, nobody knew she was the plain daughter, the overlooked one, the joke. Out here, she could be anything she chose to become. The first biscuits burned. Lavinia stood in the kitchen early the next morning, staring at the charred remains in the cast-iron pan and wanting to cry. The stove was different from the one back home, hotter, meaner, with a temperament she had not figured out yet. She had woken before dawn, determined to prove herself useful, and instead had produced something that looked like coal. Those do not look like good biscuits. She spun around. Silas stood in the doorway, still in his nightshirt, hair sticking up at odd angles. No, Lavinia admitted, they do not. He padded across the cold floor and peered into the pan. Pa says the stove runs hot. You gotta watch it. I am learning that. Can you make more? She looked at the boy's hopeful face and felt something shift inside her. Yes, but you have to help me. His eyes went wide. Really? Really? Get dressed first, though. It is freezing. He disappeared in a flash of bare feet and enthusiasm. Lavinia scraped the burned biscuits into the slop bucket and started again. This time she adjusted the damper, like Silas suggested, when he returned fully dressed and vibrating with importance. Ma used to let me crack the eggs, he said, climbing onto a chair. Your ma was smart. Lavinia handed him an egg. Go ahead. He cracked it with excessive force, shell fragments everywhere. But she did not correct him, just fished out the pieces and let him crack another. They were pulling the second batch from the oven, golden this time, actually edible, when Gideon's boots sounded on the stairs. He stopped in the kitchen doorway, taking in the scene. Silas covered in flour, Lavinia's hair escaping its pins, the counter dusted with cornmeal. We made biscuits, Silas announced. I helped. Gideon's expression did not change, but something flickered in those gray eyes. I can see that. The first one's burned, Silas added cheerfully. But Miss Bennet said that is how you learn. She is right. Gideon moved to the coffee pot, poured himself a cup. You get dressed for school? Not yet. Go. Jasper is driving you in a little while. Silas scrambled down from the chair and bolted upstairs. Gideon sipped his coffee, watching Lavinia over the rim of the cup. You do not have to get up this early, he said. When should I get up? Whenever you want. You are not a hired hand. No, I am your wife. The word still felt strange in her mouth. Wives make breakfast. He set down his cup. We had an agreement. I do not expect. Mr. Hale. She met his eyes. I did not come here to be useless. If I am going to live in this house, I am going to contribute to it. Unless you would rather I did not. A long pause, then the corner of his mouth twitched. The biscuits are fine. It was not a compliment exactly, But it was not a complaint either. He ate 3 of them, with butter and honey, then headed out to the barn. Silas thundered back down, wolfed down his own breakfast, and disappeared into a wagon with Jasper, a grizzled ranch hand who tipped his hat to Lavinia, but did not speak. Then the house was empty. Lavinia stood in the kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes and the settling silence, and realized she had no idea what to do next. Back home, there had always been something. Her mother's demands, her sister's messes, the endless cycle of cooking and cleaning for a family. Here, in this big, sparse house, she felt unmoored, purposeless. So she started cleaning, not because it needed it. Gideon clearly kept things tidy, but because she needed to understand the space. She scrubbed floors that were already clean, reorganized cupboards that were already organized, learned where everything lived. The house revealed itself slowly, well-built but unloved, functional but cold, like Gideon himself. She found his wife's sewing room by accident. The door she had been told not to open hung slightly ajar. Inside, everything was exactly as it had been left some years ago. Fabric folded on shelves, a half-finished quilt stretched across a frame, a rocking chair by the window. Lavinia backed out quickly, closing the door with shaking hands. That afternoon, she walked to the nearest outbuilding, a bunkhouse where the ranch hands stayed. A woman emerged as she approached, wiping her hands on her apron, sturdy, with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. "You must be the new Mrs. Hale," the woman said. "I am Martha Garrett. My husband Jasper works for Gideon." "Lavinia Bennett. Lavinia Hale, I suppose." "Suppose is right." Martha looked her up and down. "You settling in?" "Trying to." Martha's expression was unreadable. "Come in. I will make coffee." The bunkhouse was smaller than the main house, but warmer somehow, lived in. Martha poured coffee into chipped mugs and sat across from Lavinia at a scarred wooden table. "How much did Gideon tell you about his wife?" Martha asked bluntly. "Just that she died in childbirth. Sarah, pretty little thing, delicate, came from Denver, thought ranch life would be romantic." Martha's mouth twisted. It ate her alive. She hated it here, the isolation, the work, the cold. Hated Gideon for bringing her. By the end, they barely spoke. Lavinia's hands tightened around her mug. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you should know what you are walking into. Gideon is a good man, but he is broken in ways he will not admit. And this place," she gestured at the window at the endless prairie beyond, "this place does not forgive weakness." "I am not weak. Did not say you were." Martha studied her. "But you are not what I expected either. Most mail-order brides come in with stars in their eyes. You look like you know exactly what you signed up for." I do. Good. Martha refilled their coffee. Then maybe you will last. It was not exactly encouragement, but it was honest. Lavinia appreciated that. Over the following weeks, she learned the rhythms of the ranch. Gideon left before dawn, worked until dark, came home exhausted and silent. Silas attended school in town some days, spent the others underfoot, full of questions and energy. The ranch hands kept their distance, watching her with barely concealed skepticism. She cooked meals that Gideon ate without comment. She cleaned rooms that did not need cleaning. She tried to talk to Silas about his schoolwork and got one-word answers. Everything felt provisional, temporary, like she was playing house in someone else's life. Then the first test came. She was hanging laundry on the line behind the house, sheets that fought her in the wind, snapping like sails, when she heard shouting from the barn. Male voices, angry. Lavinia dropped the sheet and ran. Inside the barn, two ranch hands faced off, both red-faced and bristling. One was Jasper's son, barely more than a boy. The other was older, with scarred knuckles and murder in his eyes. "Say it again," the older man growled. "Say it to my face. I said you are doing it wrong." The punch came fast. The younger man went down hard, blood spurting from his nose. The older man advanced, fists raised. "Stop!" Lavinia's voice cracked like a whip. Both men froze, turning to stare at her. "Mrs. Hale." The older man, she remembered his name was Emilio, straightened. "This does not concern you. You are fighting in my husband's barn. It concerns me." She stepped between them, heart hammering. "What is this about?" "He called me." "I do not care what he called you." She looked at the younger man, still on the ground. "Get up. Go to the house. Martha will fix your nose." "I am not taking orders from your employer's wife." "Yes, you are. Go." He went, shooting Emilio a poisonous look. Lavinia turned to Emilio. "And you? If you have a problem with how someone is working, you tell Gideon. You do not use your fists." Emilio's jaw worked. "With respect, ma'am, you do not understand how things work here." "Then explain it to me." He blinked, clearly not expecting that. "What? Explain what I do not understand. I am listening." A long pause, then grudgingly. "The kid is green, does not listen, does things his own way, and screws up the work for everyone. So teach him." "I have tried. Try harder." She held his gaze. "You are older than him, more experienced. Then act like it. Fighting him just makes you both look like children." Something shifted in Emilio's expression. Not quite respect, but maybe the beginning of it. "Yes, ma'am." "Good." She turned to leave, then stopped. "And Emilio, thank you for not hitting him again." You were angry enough, but you stopped when I asked. That took control. She left him standing there, stunned, and walked back to the house on legs that shook so badly she could barely stand. What had she just done? She had no authority here, no right to give orders. She was the mail-order bride, the outsider, the woman nobody wanted. But when Gideon came home that night, Jasper was waiting for him on the porch. Lavinia listened from the kitchen, hands stilled in dishwater. "Your wife broke up a fight today," Jasper said. "Emilio and my boy." Silence. Then, "Anyone hurt?" "Just pride. She handled it. Sent them both packing with their tails between their legs." "She did." Gideon's voice was neutral, unreadable. "Yes, sir. Thought you should know." Footsteps. The front door opening. Gideon appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in his work clothes, dusty and tired. "Jasper says you stopped a fight." Lavinia kept washing dishes. "They were being stupid. I told them to stop and they listened. Eventually." He moved into the room, leaned against the counter. "You did not have to do that. They were fighting in your barn. Someone had to. Most women would have run the other way." She looked at him then, meeting those gray eyes. "I am not most women." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or reassessment. "No, you are not." He left without saying more, but that night at dinner, he asked her opinion on which fields to plant for winter wheat. It was a small thing, easily missed, but Lavinia noticed. The next day, Emilio tipped his hat when he saw her. The day after that, 2 of the other ranch hands actually spoke to her. Just, "Morning, ma'am." But it was something. She was becoming real to them, visible. But the town was a different story. Martha convinced her to come to the Sunday social at the church. "You need to meet people," she insisted, despite Lavinia's protests. So Lavinia wore her best dress, which still was not very good, and let Gideon drive her and Silas into Wind River. The church was a simple building, white-painted and earnest. Inside, it was packed with people who all turned to stare when Lavinia entered. "That is her," someone whispered. "The mail-order bride. Poor thing, plain as a fence post. I heard she answered an advertisement, desperate." Lavinia kept her chin up, following Martha to a pew. Gideon sat on her other side, Silas between them, seemingly oblivious to the whispers. After the service, the women descended. Mrs. Hale, a blonde woman in an elaborate hat, smiled with too many teeth. "I am Mrs. Langford. Welcome to Wind River." "Thank you. It must be quite an adjustment coming from, where was it? Missouri." "Oh, Missouri. Like it was another planet." "Well, Wyoming is certainly different, rougher. Not everyone adapts." Her eyes swept over Lavinia's plain dress, her work-roughened hands. "But I am sure you will do your best." Other women clustered around, all false smiles and sharp eyes. They asked invasive questions wrapped in politeness. How did she meet Gideon? Was she close to her family? Did she have much experience with children? Lavinia answered with the minimum required, feeling herself shrinking under their scrutiny. This was worse than her sister's mockery. At least that had been honest cruelty. This was death by 1,000 cuts, each one delivered with a smile. "I think it is wonderful," a young woman said brightly. "How brave of you to come all this way for a stranger. Very practical." The word landed like a slap. Practical. Not romantic, not desirable, just practical. Lavinia excused herself and escaped to the yard where Silas was playing with other children. She stood in the cold air, trying to breathe through the tightness in her chest. "They are all terrible." She turned. A woman stood there, older than Lavinia, with graying hair and kind eyes. "I am sorry," Lavinia said. "The church ladies, they are terrible gossips with nothing better to do than pick apart anyone new." The woman held out her hand. "I am Dr. Lin Chen. I run the medical practice here." "You are a doctor." Surprised, Dr. Chen smiled. "Most people are. Chinese woman doctor in Wyoming. I am the town scandal. Or I was until you showed up." Despite everything, Lavinia laughed. "I am Lavinia. I know. And I know what they are saying about you." Dr. Chen's expression sobered. "Ignore them. Half of them married for money, the other half for land. At least you are honest about your arrangement. Does everyone know? It is a small town. Everyone knows everything." Dr. Chen gestured toward the church. "But here is what they do not know, whether you will last. Sarah did not. She withered here like a hothouse flower in frost. They are all waiting to see if you will do the same." "I will not." "Good." Dr. Chen studied her. "You know what I think. I think you are tougher than you look, and this town needs more tough women." It was the first genuine kindness anyone had shown her since Martha's brutal honesty. Lavinia felt something loosen in her chest. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet. Come by the practice sometime. I could use help with record keeping, and you look like you can read." "I can." "Then we will talk." Dr. Chen headed back toward the church, then paused. "And Lavinia, that dress does not do you any favors. Come by my house tomorrow. I have some things that might fit better." She was gone before Lavinia could respond. The ride home was quiet. Silas chattered about his friends. Gideon drove in silence, and Lavinia stared at the passing landscape, processing. "They were unkind," Gideon said suddenly. Lavinia looked at him, surprised. "What?" "The women at church. I saw their faces. His jaw was tight. They were unkind." "It is fine." "It is not." He clicked his tongue at the horses. "Sarah used to come home from those socials in tears. They made her feel small. I am not Sarah." "No." He glanced at her. "You are not." They did not speak again until they reached the ranch. But when Lavinia climbed down from the wagon, Gideon caught her arm. "What you did yesterday with Emilio and the kid." He cleared his throat. "That was good. Smart. The men respect that. Thank you. I mean it." His hand dropped. "You are doing well here. Better than well. You are doing good." It was not poetry, but coming from Gideon Hale, it felt like a victory. That night, after Silas was in bed, Lavinia sat in the kitchen darning socks by lamplight. Gideon came in, poured himself coffee, and sat across from her. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Why did you really come here?" She set down the sock. "I told you. My sisters. I know what your sisters did. I am asking why you said yes." He leaned forward. "You could have refused. Could have stayed in Missouri, found someone local eventually. Why get on a train to nowhere for a man you had never met?" Lavinia thought about lying, making it sound noble or romantic. But Gideon deserved honesty, because in Missouri, "I was invisible," she said quietly. "I was the plain daughter, the extra mouth, the one nobody wanted. Every day reminded me of what I was not. Pretty enough, charming enough, worth enough." She met his eyes. "Your letter offered me something different. Not love or romance, but a chance to be useful, needed, to build something, instead of just existing in someone else's shadow." Gideon was quiet for a long time. Then, "I understand that." "Do you? Sarah married me because I had land, status. She thought ranch life would be adventurous." His voice went flat. "She was wrong, and when she realized it, she hated me for it, hated this place. By the end, we were strangers, living in the same house. I am sorry. Do not be. It is over." He stood, carried his cup to the sink. "But I will not make that mistake again. I will not pretend this is something it is not. I am not asking you to." He nodded, started to leave, then turned back. "For what it is worth, you are not invisible here." The words settled around her like a blanket. Over the following weeks, Lavinia found her footing. She learned to manage the stove's moods, to predict Silas's questions, to read the subtle shifts in Gideon's expression that meant he had had a hard day. She helped Dr. Chen with medical records some days a week, earning both money and friendship. She started making small changes to the house: curtains for the kitchen, a rug in the parlor, a shelf for Silas's growing collection of rocks and feathers. The ranch hands stopped treating her like a ghost. Martha taught her to shoot. "Every ranch woman needs to know," she insisted. Emilio showed her how to doctor a sick calf. Even the Mexican cook, Maria, started leaving recipe cards for her to try. But Gideon remained distant. He was never unkind, never dismissive, but there was a wall around him that Lavinia could not breach. They ate meals together, discussed Silas's schooling, coordinated household needs, but they never talked about anything real, never touched except by accident. At night, Lavinia lay in her narrow bed and listened to him move around in his room across the hall. So close, so unreachable. She told herself it did not matter. This was the arrangement. But some treacherous part of her heart wanted more. Then the first real cold came. Lavinia woke one morning to frost thick on the windows and Silas's excited shouts. "Snow! Miss Lavinia! It is snowing!" She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and looked out. The world had transformed overnight, white and clean and brutally beautiful. "Get dressed warm," she called to Silas. "Extra socks." By the time she made it downstairs, Gideon was already bringing in extra firewood. "Storm is coming," he said. "Real one. Jasper heard it from the telegraph operator in town." "How bad?" "Bad enough. We are moving the cattle to the near pastures, securing the outbuildings. You should stock up. Food, water, medical supplies. We might be stuck inside for days." Lavinia spent the morning preparing. She baked bread, made stew, filled every container with water. Martha came by with extra blankets and advice. "Keep the fires going," she said, "and if the wind gets too bad, do not go outside. People get lost 20 feet from their own doors in whiteouts." "Is it really that dangerous?" Martha's expression was grim. Last year, the Langfords' youngest son went to check on the chickens during a storm. They found him days later, frozen to death 50 yards from the coop. So, yes, it is that dangerous. The storm hit at dusk. 1 minute, snow was falling gently. The next, the wind rose to a scream, and the world disappeared into white chaos. Lavinia stood at the window, watching the barn vanish behind sheets of snow. "Is Pa coming back?" Silas's voice was small. "Of course he is." But Lavinia's heart hammered. Gideon and the ranch hands were still out there somewhere, bringing in the last of the livestock. An hour passed. Then 2. Silas fell asleep on the sofa, wrapped in blankets. Lavinia kept the fire burning, the coffee hot, her eyes on the door. Finally, it burst open. Gideon stumbled in, followed by Emilio and Jasper. All 3 of them crusted with ice and snow. "Everyone is accounted for," Gideon said, his voice rough. "Stock secured. We are set." Lavinia helped them out of their frozen coats, poured hot coffee, brought the stew she had kept warming. The men ate in exhausted silence. Then Jasper and Emilio headed to the bunkhouse. Gideon sat by the fire, thawing out while Lavinia checked on Silas. "He was worried," she said quietly, sitting across from Gideon. "I know." Gideon's hands were wrapped around his coffee cup, shaking slightly. "I tried to get back sooner." You are here now. That is what matters. He looked at her then, really looked like he was seeing something new. You were worried, too. It was not a question. Yes, Lavinia admitted. Why? Because she stopped, searching for words that would not reveal too much. Because Silas needs you. The ranch needs you. Is that all? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Before Lavinia could answer, Silas stirred on the sofa, mumbling in his sleep. The moment broke. I should get him to bed, she said, standing. Lavinia. Gideon's voice stopped her. Thank you for today, for everything. She carried Silas upstairs, her heart still racing from what had almost been said. The storm lasted 3 days. 3 days trapped inside with Gideon and Silas. The world reduced to the walls of the house and the howl of wind. They played cards, told stories, read books aloud. Silas taught Lavinia a complicated game involving marbles. Gideon fixed a broken chair leg. They existed together in close quarters, and something shifted. Small moments accumulated. Gideon's hand brushing hers as he passed the salt. The way he laughed at one of Silas's terrible jokes. The night Lavinia woke to find him adding wood to her fire, making sure she stayed warm. On the 3rd day, the wind finally died. Gideon and the ranch hands dug out, assessed damage, checked on the stock. Minor losses, mostly. They had been lucky. That night, Gideon found Lavinia in the kitchen, kneading bread dough. Storm is over, he said. I noticed. He moved closer, close enough that she could smell snow and leather. These past few days. Yes, it was nice having you here. Not just as help, as... He struggled for words. As company. Lavinia's hand stilled in the dough. I thought we had an arrangement. We do. His voice was rough. But maybe arrangements can change. Her heart stuttered. Into what? I do not know yet. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I am not good at this. Sarah used to say I was made of stone. Maybe she was right. You are not stone. Lavinia wiped her hands on her apron, turned to face him. You are careful. There is a difference. Careful, he repeated. Is that what you call it? What would you call it? Afraid. The admission seemed to cost him. Afraid of doing this wrong again. Lavinia's throat tightened. Gideon. Forget it. He stepped back. I should not have said anything. No, wait! She caught his arm before he could leave. I am afraid, too. I am afraid this is temporary. That one day you will realize you made a mistake bringing me here. That I am not enough, not pretty enough, not accomplished enough, not whatever it was you really wanted. Gideon turned to look at her, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. You think I want you to be different. His voice was low, intense. Lavinia, you stopped a fight between men who could have killed each other. You won over my son in a day. You survived that storm without complaint and kept us all fed and warm. You are the strongest woman I have ever met. And he stopped, jaw working. You what? She whispered. But whatever he had been about to say, he swallowed it back. We should take this slow. How slow? A ghost of a smile, slower than I want to. He left her standing there, heart racing, hands shaking, the bread forgotten. Something had changed. Something fundamental and terrifying and wonderful. The arrangement was becoming something else. Whether that was good or catastrophic, only time would tell. The days after that conversation moved differently, like the world had tilted slightly off its axis. Gideon did not avoid her, but he did not seek her out either. They existed in a strange limbo, closer than strangers, not quite anything else. As winter deepened, Silas made paper chains for the holidays, draping them across the parlor, while chattering about what he hoped to find under the tree. Lavinia threw herself into preparations, baking, cleaning, sewing a new shirt for Silas from fabric Dr. Chen had given her, and trying not to think about Gideon's unfinished sentence. She was in the kitchen one afternoon, elbow deep in pie dough, when Martha burst through the door without knocking. "There is trouble," Martha said, breathless. "Langford is making moves." Lavinia wiped her hands. "What kind of moves?" "The land kind. He has been buying up notes from the bank, calling in debts. Got the Morrison Ranch last week, paid half what it was worth. Now he is sniffing around here. Why would he want this ranch? Water rights. The Wind River runs straight through Gideon's land. Langford has been trying to get control of it for years." Martha's face was grim. "He made Sarah miserable back when she was alive. Kept suggesting Gideon sell. Kept pointing out how hard ranch life was for her. I think he hoped she would convince Gideon to give up. But she died. Yes, and Gideon has held on ever since, out of pure stubbornness, if nothing else." Martha grabbed Lavinia's shoulders. "Listen to me. Langford is a snake. He will smile and act friendly, but he is looking for weakness. Do not give him any." "I will not." Martha studied her face. "You care about this place." It was not a question, but Lavinia answered anyway. "Yes, good, because Gideon needs someone in his corner who is not afraid to fight." Langford showed up 2 days later. Lavinia was hanging laundry when she heard the horse, a fine black gelding that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. The rider was equally fine, tall, silver-haired, dressed like he was attending a gentleman's club instead of visiting a working ranch. "Mrs. Hale," his smile was all teeth. "Victor Langford. I own the Triple P south of here." "Mr. Langford." She did not offer her hand. "My husband is out with the stock. Actually, I came to see you." He dismounted, moving closer. "I wanted to welcome you properly to the territory. My wife was quite taken with you at church, liar." His wife had been one of the worst gossips. "That is kind," Lavinia said neutrally. "I also wanted to express my condolences about your situation." Her hand stilled on the clothesline. "My situation. Coming all this way, only to find yourself on a struggling ranch with a difficult man." His voice dripped false sympathy. "It cannot be easy. The ranch is not struggling, is it not?" Langford's smile sharpened. "Gideon lost stock last winter. His water rights are being contested. And between you and me, the bank is getting nervous about his loans. I do not discuss my husband's business with strangers. Of course not. But as a friend, and I hope we can be friends, Mrs. Hale, I feel obligated to mention that I would be happy to make Gideon a fair offer. Take this burden off his shoulders. Give him a chance to start fresh somewhere easier." There it was, the real reason for his visit. "This ranch is not for sale," Lavinia said. "Everything is for sale at the right price." Langford moved closer, and she smelled expensive cologne mixed with something rotten underneath. "A woman like you, educated, sensible, must see how precarious your position is here. One bad winter and you could lose everything, whereas if Gideon sold to me, you would have security, maybe even enough to return to civilization. I am civilized, Mr. Langford, and I am exactly where I want to be." His expression flickered just for a second. The mask slipped, and she saw cold calculation underneath. Then the smile returned. "Of course, I meant no offense." He tipped his hat. "But the offer stands. When things get difficult, and they will, remember that you have options." He rode off, leaving Lavinia standing in the cold yard with her heart hammering. When Gideon came home that night, she told him everything. He listened without interrupting, his face getting harder with each word. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "He is right about some of it," Gideon said finally. "The water rights are being contested. The bank is breathing down my neck. Last winter nearly broke us. Then we fight back. We." He looked at her sharply. "Did you think I would just stand aside?" Lavinia moved closer. "This is my home too now. My future. You think I am going to let some pompous land grabber take it? It is not your fight. Like hell it is not." The curse felt good in her mouth. "I did not come here to watch you fail, Gideon. I came here to build something. So either tell me how to help or get out of my way." Something blazed in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or admiration. "You really mean that?" "Every word." He studied her face for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. A real smile. The first she had seen from him. "All right then," he said. "Let us fight." They started that night. Gideon spread maps and documents across the kitchen table. deeds, water rights claims, loan papers. Lavinia had never seen anything like it, but she was good with numbers and better with logic. The Langford claim is based on an old survey, Gideon explained. They say the river's natural course puts it on their land, not mine. But that survey is from before the channel shifted. Can we prove when it shifted? Maybe, if we can find documentation. What about witnesses? Anyone who has lived here long enough to remember. Gideon's eyes lit up. Old Ezra Bridger. He has been in these parts since the early days. Lives up in the hills now. Barely comes to town. Then we need to talk to him. They worked until past midnight. Silas long asleep upstairs. At some point, Gideon made coffee. At another, their hands brushed over the same document, and neither pulled away immediately. "Why are you doing this?" Gideon asked finally. "I told you." "No, I mean really. You could walk away. Langford would probably pay your way back to Missouri. You would be free." Lavinia set down her pencil. "I do not want to be free. I want to be here." "Why?" "Because for the first time in my life, I matter. What I do makes a difference. Silas needs me. The ranch needs me. You." She stopped. "I what?" His voice was low, dangerous. "You see me?" she whispered. "Not as a burden, or a joke, or a practical solution. You see me." Gideon reached across the table, his rough hand covering hers. "I see you, Lavinia. I have seen you since the day you stepped off that train, looking terrified and determined all at once." Her breath caught. "Gideon, I am going to kiss you," he said, "unless you tell me not to." She did not tell him not to. He stood, moved around the table, pulled her to her feet. His hands framed her face, rough and gentle at once. When his lips met hers, it was nothing like she had imagined. Not smooth or practiced, but real. Hesitant at first, then deeper, like a man remembering how to feel. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Gideon rested his forehead against hers. "I do not know how to do this," he admitted. "How to let someone in again. Then we will figure it out together. What if I fail? What if I hurt you? What if you do not?" She pulled back to meet his eyes. "You cannot live your whole life afraid of making the same mistakes. Sarah said I was cold, unfeeling, that loving me was like loving stone. Sarah was wrong." Lavinia's voice was fierce. "You are not cold. You are careful, and there is nothing wrong with that." He kissed her again, and this time there was less hesitation, more hunger. His hands moved to her waist, pulling her closer, and she felt the solid warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart. A floorboard creaked upstairs. They broke apart, both flushed and breathless. "Silas," Gideon said, "we should—" "Yes." But he did not let go of her hand. Tomorrow we will ride up to see old Ezra together. Together, Lavinia agreed. That night, lying in her bed, she could not stop smiling. Something had shifted. Not completely, not perfectly, but undeniably. The wall between them had cracked. The next morning, they left Silas with Martha and rode into the hills. The terrain got rougher as they climbed, pine trees giving way to scrub brush and exposed rock. Gideon led the way, occasionally pointing out landmarks. "You handle a horse well," he observed. "Martha taught me. Said every ranch woman needs to ride. Martha is right about most things." He glanced back at her. "How are you doing? It is a hard ride." "I am fine." And she was. The cold air felt good, the movement exhilarating. This was so far from Missouri. It might as well be another world. They found old Ezra's cabin in a protected valley, smoke rising from the chimney. The man who emerged was ancient, weathered like old leather, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Gideon Hale," Ezra said, "and you brought company." "My wife, Lavinia." "Wife?" Ezra's eyebrows rose. "Heard you got married. Did not believe it." He studied Lavinia. "You are not Sarah." "No, sir." "Good. That girl was pretty but useless. You look like you might survive a Wyoming winter." He gestured to the cabin. "Come in. Tell me why you are really here." Inside, over bitter coffee, Gideon explained about the Langford claim and Victor's circling. Ezra listened, nodding occasionally. "The Langfords are fools. That river has been on your land for years at least. I remember when it shifted. Big storm back then changed the whole drainage. Before that, it ran south through what is now Langford's property." "Can you testify to that?" Lavinia asked. "In court against the Langfords." Ezra laughed. "Girl, I would be dead before the trial ended. Those men do not play fair." "Then we need documentation," Gideon said. "Old surveys, maps, anything. There might be something." Ezra stood, moving to a battered trunk in the corner. "I did some surveying work back then. Kept copies." He rummaged through papers yellow with age. "Here, map from before showing the original river course, and here, notes from the Army Corps about the flood damage." Lavinia's heart leaped. "This is perfect, if it holds up in court." Ezra handed over the documents. "But you are fighting powerful men, Gideon. Langford especially. He does not like losing." "Let him not like it," Gideon said grimly. "I am not giving up my land." They rode back as dusk was falling, the document safely wrapped in oilcloth. Lavinia's mind was already working through the next steps, filing the evidence, finding a lawyer, building their case. "You are good at this," Gideon said suddenly. "At what?" "Strategy, problem solving. Sarah used to panic when things got difficult. You get focused. Panic does not help anything." No. He slowed his horse, waiting for her to draw alongside. Lavinia, about last night. Do not. She cut him off, then softened her voice. Do not apologize or take it back, please. I was not going to. His eyes found hers. I was going to say, we should probably talk about what happens next. What do you want to happen? I want. He stopped, jaw working. I want things I did not think I would want again. Things that scare the hell out of me. Like what? Like waking up next to someone who gives a damn if I come home. Like having a real partner instead of a housekeeper with a fancy title. Like, he swallowed hard. Like being loved again. Lavinia's throat tightened. Gideon, I am not good at this, he continued roughly. I am going to mess up. Say the wrong thing. Shut down. Well, should open up. But I am trying, Lavinia. For the first time in years, I am actually trying. She reached across the space between their horses, found his hand. Then we are both trying. That is enough. They rode the rest of the way in comfortable silence, hands linked, something settling between them that felt like the beginning of truth. But when they reached the ranch, trouble was waiting. The main barn was burning. Flames climbed into the darkening sky. Men running with buckets, horses screaming in panic. Gideon spurred his mount forward, Lavinia right behind him. What happened? Gideon shouted at Emilio, who was leading horses out of danger. Do not know. The whole thing went up at once. They fought the fire for hours. Bucket brigades from the well, wet blankets smothering smaller flames, men risking their lives to save the animals. By the time they got it under control, the barn was a smiting ruin. Gideon stood staring at the wreckage, his face like carved stone. Could have been an accident, Jasper said quietly. Lantern knocked over, maybe. Or it could have been Langford, Emilio added, sending a message. You have proof. Gideon's voice was dangerous. No, but then we do not make accusations. Gideon turned away. Salvage what you can. We will rebuild. The men dispersed slowly. Lavinia approached Gideon, who stood with his back to her, shoulders rigid. Talk to me, she said softly. Nothing to talk about. Gideon, I said there is nothing to talk about. He spun to face her, and she saw the fury in his eyes, and beneath it, fear. This is what I was trying to tell you. This is what happens when you fight men like Langford. They do not just beat you in court. They destroy everything you have built. You do not know it was him. Who else would it be? It could have been an accident. Do not be naive. His voice cut like a knife. Nothing out here is an accident. Everything has a cost. She stepped closer, refusing to back down. Then we pay the cost. We rebuild. We fight harder. You should leave. The words came out flat, final. Before this gets worse. Lavinia felt like she had been slapped. What? You heard me. Pack your things. I will pay your way back to Missouri. Langford was right. You deserve better than this. Do not you dare. Her voice shook with anger. Do not you dare make this decision for me. I am trying to protect you. I do not need protection. I need you to stop running away. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. Something bad happened. Fine. We deal with it, but you do not get to push me away because you are scared. I am not scared. You are terrified. Her voice gentled. You are terrified that if you let yourself care about me, you will lose me like you lost Sarah. But Gideon, I am not her. I am not fragile. I am not going to break. You do not know that. Neither do you. She moved closer, close enough to feel his breath. But we will not find out if you keep pushing me away. His hands came up, gripping her arms. What if I cannot do this? What if I let you down? Then you let me down, and we figure it out together. She reached up, touching his face. Stop trying to protect me from life, Gideon. I chose this. I chose you. Stop fighting me on it. Something cracked in his expression. He pulled her against him, burying his face in her hair, and she felt him shake. I cannot lose you, he whispered. I cannot go through that again. You will not. She held him tight. I am not going anywhere. They stood there in the wreckage, holding each other, while smoke drifted around them. And Lavinia felt something fundamental shift. This was not just attraction anymore. This was deeper, more complicated, more real. When they finally pulled apart, Gideon's eyes were wet. I am sorry, he said, for trying to push you away. Do not do it again. I will try. He managed a weak smile. No promises. Good enough. They walked back to the house together. And for the first time, Gideon took her hand in full view of the ranch hands. A statement, a claim, a choice. Inside, Silas was waiting up, tear-stained and terrified. Pa, I saw the fire. Is everyone okay? Everyone is fine. Gideon knelt down, pulling his son into a hug. The barn is gone, but we are all safe. Was it bad men, like in the stories? Gideon glanced at Lavinia over Silas's head. We do not know yet, but it does not matter. We are going to be fine, because Miss Lavinia is here now. Yeah, Silas said, because she is here now. That night, after Silas was asleep, Gideon knocked on Lavinia's bedroom door. Can I come in? She opened it, still dressed, knowing she would not sleep. Of course. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. I need to tell you something. All right, Sarah and we got married too young. I was young. She was younger, pretty and sweet, and completely unprepared for ranch life. He sat on the edge of her bed, staring at his hands. She tried at first, but she hated it. Hated the isolation, the work, the endless cold. And I was too proud to admit it was not working. Too stubborn to let her go back to Denver, even for visits. Lavinia sat beside him, listening. By the time she got pregnant with Silas, we barely spoke. She spent all her time in that sewing room, avoiding me, avoiding everything. His voice cracked. When she went into labor with the second baby, she was already weak, depressed. Dr. Chen said she had given up before the labor even started. She died, hating me, and the baby died because she did not have the strength to fight, all because I was too stubborn to see what I was doing to her. Gideon, that was not your fault, was it not? I brought her here. I kept her here. I chose the ranch over her happiness. You cannot know that is what killed her. Childbirth is dangerous. I killed her spirit long before childbirth killed her body. He looked at Lavinia, eyes raw. And tonight, when I saw that barn burning, all I could think was that I was doing it again, dragging someone into danger because of my pride, my stubbornness. Stop. Lavinia squeezed his hand hard. Listen to me. I am not Sarah. I chose this life with my eyes open. Nobody dragged me here. Nobody is keeping me here against my will. This is my choice, Gideon. Mine. But if something happens to you, then something happens. That is life. She turned to face him fully. You cannot control everything. You cannot prevent every bad thing. All you can do is be honest with me. Trust me to make my own decisions and fight beside me when things get hard. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I do not deserve you. Probably not. She smiled. But you are stuck with me anyway. He kissed her then, desperate and grateful, and full of everything he could not say. She kissed him back, pouring all her own fears and hopes into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. Stay with me tonight, he whispered. Just stay. She did. They lay together on her narrow bed, fully clothed, arms around each other, talking until dawn, about Sarah and the ranch, about Lavinia's family and Missouri, about Silas and the future, and whether they had any chance of beating Langford. Somewhere in the small hours, Gideon said, I think I am falling in love with you. Lavinia's heart stopped. You think? I am terrified to say it for certain. Like if I admit it out loud, something will take you away. Nothing is taking me away. She pressed closer. And for what it is worth, I am falling too. His arms tightened around her. God help us both. No, she smiled against his chest. We help each other. That is how these works. When morning came, they were still tangled together, both exhausted, and somehow more rested than they had been in years. The sound of Silas's feet on the stairs made them spring apart, laughing like guilty children. I should. Gideon gestured at the door. Yes, but Lavinia caught his hand before he could leave. Tonight, he promised. The next weeks were a strange combination of crisis and joy. During the days, they fought Langford's machinations, filing their evidence, hiring a lawyer from Cheyenne, rallying support from other ranchers who had been squeezed by the land baron. During the nights, they fell into each other with the desperation of people who had been alone too long. They were careful around Silas, maintaining separate rooms. But the boy was not stupid. He started calling Lavinia Ma without anyone telling him to. Started holding both their hands when they walked. Started smiling more, laughing more, the way children do when the adults around them are happy. The court date was set as winter deepened. In the meantime, winter closed in hard. The second storm hit right after the holidays, bigger than the first. And this time, Lavinia was not scared. She was prepared. They weathered it together, the three of them, plus the ranch hands in the bunkhouse, all hunkered down, while the world outside tried to kill them. And when it passed, when they dug out into a world made of white silence, Lavinia felt something settle in her chest. She was home, really. Truly home. On New Year's Eve, after Silas was asleep, Gideon found her in the kitchen. "Come with me," he said. He led her to Sarah's old sewing room, the room that had been locked since Lavinia arrived. Inside, he had cleared everything out. The fabric, the rocking chair, the half-finished quilt, all of it gone. "I should have done this years ago," he said quietly, "but I was holding on to something that did not exist anymore. Gideon, I am letting her go, Lavinia. Not forgetting, but letting go." He turned to her. "Because I want to make room for something new. For us." She could not speak past the lump in her throat. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple gold ring. It was my grandmother's. Not fancy, but it is real. He took her hand. "Lavinia Hale, will you marry me? Actually marry me. Not an arrangement, not a transaction. A real marriage." "We are already married," she managed. "In name, I am asking for more than that." His eyes searched hers. "I am asking for everything. Your heart, your trust, your future. Will you give them to me?" "Yes." The word came out choked with tears. "Yes, you stubborn, impossible man. Yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, and outside the wind howled. But inside, they were warm. They had stopped pretending, stopped holding back. What began as desperation had become something neither of them expected, something worth fighting for. The courthouse in Cheyenne was bigger than Lavinia expected, imposing stone walls and high windows that let in gray winter light. She sat in the gallery beside Martha, hands folded in her lap, watching Gideon confer with their lawyer at the front table. Langford sat across the aisle, flanked by two attorneys in expensive suits, looking supremely confident. "He thinks he has already won," Martha whispered. "Let him think that," Lavinia replied. The judge entered, a stern woman in her later years named Morrison, and the room fell silent. Lavinia had done her research. Judge Morrison had a reputation for fairness and zero tolerance for theatrics. The Langford lawyer went first, laying out their claim in flowery language about historical boundaries and natural watercourses. He produced their old survey, speaking with the confidence of someone who believed maps did not lie. Then it was their turn. Their lawyer, a sharp young man named Davis from Cheyenne, stood and began methodically dismantling the Langford case. He presented old Ezra's maps showing the river's original course, the Army Corps documentation of the flood damage, and testimony from 3 other longtime residents who corroborated the timeline. "The river shifted years ago," Davis said clearly. "The Langford claim is based on outdated information. The current channel has run through the Hale property for decades. That makes it legally his." Langford's lawyer objected. Something about adverse possession and prior rights. Judge Morrison shut him down with a look that could freeze fire. "I will hear from Mr. Bridger," she said. Old Ezra took the stand, looking uncomfortable in his Sunday clothes, but speaking with the authority of someone who had seen it all. He described the flood in precise detail, marked dates on maps, never wavered under cross-examination. "And you are certain about these dates?" the Langford lawyer pressed. "Son, I was surveying this territory before you were born. I am certain." A ripple of laughter ran through the gallery. Judge Morrison's mouth twitched. When Ezra stepped down, Lavinia caught Gideon's eye. He looked tense, wound tight as wire, but he managed a small nod. The judge called for a recess. Lavinia followed Gideon and Davis into a small conference room. "How are we doing?" Gideon asked. "Better than expected." Davis shuffled papers. "Ezra was excellent. Their case is falling apart." "Langford looks too calm," Lavinia said. "He is planning something." Both men turned to look at her. "What makes you say that?" Davis asked. "Because he is a snake, and snakes do not give up just because they are losing." She looked at Gideon. "What else does he have on you? Debts, contracts, anything he could use?" Gideon's face went carefully blank. "There is the bank loan. What about it?" "It is due soon, a significant sum." Lavinia's stomach dropped. "Can we pay it?" "If we have a good spring calving season and cattle prices hold, maybe. And if we do not, the bank forecloses. Langford has been buying up debt from the bank for months. If they foreclose, he buys the note and takes the ranch anyway. Lavinia finished. That is his backup plan. Davis swore softly. He is boxing you in. Win or lose here, he still gets what he wants. Not if we pay off the loan first, Lavinia said. With what money? Gideon's voice was flat. We are barely breaking even as it is. Her mind raced, sorting through possibilities. What if we sold something? Land you do not need. Equipment already mortgaged, all of it. Then we borrow from somewhere else. Another bank, private lenders. Nobody is going to lend to a rancher who is already leveraged to his neck. Lavinia stared at the table, thinking hard. There had to be a way. There was always a way. Then it hit her. What about the timber rights? Gideon frowned. What timber rights? The north section. You mentioned once there is good timber there, but you have never harvested it because you needed it for windbreak. That timber is worth some money. Not nearly enough. But what if we sold the rights, not the timber itself? Lease them to a logging company for controlled harvest. She turned to Davis. That is legal, right? We keep the land. They pay us for access. Davis's eyes lit up. Yes, and timber rights can be quite valuable if there is good access to rail. The northern section borders the rail line. Gideon said slowly, I never thought about that. How fast can we arrange it? Lavinia asked Davis. If I make some calls, maybe a week to get bids. Do it. She looked at Gideon. We are not giving Langford the satisfaction. Something fierce and proud flashed across Gideon's face. No, we are not. Court resumed. The judge heard closing arguments, then announced she would deliver her decision in a few days. They filed out into the cold afternoon, and Lavinia saw Langford watching them from across the courthouse steps. He approached with that snake oil smile. Hail, Mrs. Hale. Hell of a case you put on. Thank you, Gideon said neutrally. Of course, even if you win, there is still the matter of that bank loan. Langford's smile widened. It is coming due faster than you think. We will manage, Lavinia said, before Gideon could respond. Will you? Langford's eyes moved over her, assessing and dismissing. You are a clever woman, Mrs. Hale. Cleverer than poor Sarah, certainly, but cleverness does not pay bills. No, Lavinia agreed, but it finds solutions. You should remember that. She took Gideon's arm and walked away, feeling Langford's eyes on her back. On the train ride home, Gideon was quiet. Lavinia sat beside him, watching snow-covered landscape roll past, thinking through numbers and possibilities. You did not have to do that, Gideon said finally. Do what? Stand up to Langford. That is my fight. It is our fight. She squeezed his hand. Get used to it. He was quiet for another moment. Then, the timber rights idea. That was smart. Let us hope it works. Even if it does not, he turned to look at her. You were magnificent today. Watching you think your way through problems, refuse to back down. I have never seen anything like it. Heat crept up her neck. I am just doing what needs doing. No, you are doing what I should have done years ago. Fighting instead of just enduring. His hand tightened on hers. You have changed everything, Lavinia. The ranch, Silas, me. Everything is different now. Better different or worse different. Better. So much better. It scares me. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Good. We can be scared together. Davis worked fast. Within a week, he had arranged meetings with several logging companies. The best offer came from a Denver outfit. Significant money up front for harvest rights with royalties on timber sold. Combined with their savings and a small loan from Dr. Chen, who turned out to have money put aside and a soft spot for stubborn women, they could cover the bank payment. The judge's decision came down on a Friday. Water rights belong to Gideon Hale, based on the current river course and decades of continuous use. The Langford claim was denied. They celebrated that night with a small dinner. Gideon, Lavinia, Silas, and the ranch hands. Nothing fancy, just roasted chicken and potatoes, and a sense of having won something that mattered. Does this mean we get to keep the ranch? Silas asked, gnawing on a drumstick. Yes, Gideon said. We keep it because Ma is smart. Lavinia's heart caught on that word. Ma. Silas said it so casually now, like it had always been true. Because we all work together, she managed. After Silas was in bed, Lavinia found Gideon in the barn checking on the horses. Snow was falling outside, soft and steady. Cannot sleep? She asked. Too much in my head. He turned to face her. I keep thinking about what you said to Langford, that cleverness finds solutions. So you found solutions I never would have seen. The timber rights, the way you handled the ranch hands, even standing up to those church women. He moved closer. You are not just surviving here, Lavinia. You are thriving, and you are making everyone around you better. I am making mistakes too. Martha had to show me 3 times how to preserve meat properly. I burned an entire batch of bread last week. I am not talking about bread. He took her face in his hands. I am talking about this. Us. The way you have taken this broken house and made it a home. The way you look at Silas like he is yours. The way you fight for this place like it matters. It does matter. To you, maybe. But why? You could have had an easier life. Married someone in Missouri who would treat you like a lady, give you a comfortable home. I do not want comfortable. The words came out fierce. I want this, the work, The struggle, the challenge. I want to build something that matters. I want—" She stopped, searching for words. "What?" His voice was low, intense. "I want to be more than I was." She met his eyes. "In Missouri, I was nobody, the forgotten daughter. But here I am needed, important. I make decisions that affect people's lives, and yes, it is hard and scary, and sometimes I have no idea what I am doing, but I would rather fail at something meaningful than succeed at being invisible." He kissed her then, hard and desperate, and full of everything he could not say. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. "You are not invisible," he whispered. "You are the brightest thing I have ever seen." They made it back to the house somehow, stumbling through snow, laughing like drunk people. Inside, he pulled her upstairs, not to her room this time, but to his. "Stay," he said. Not a question. She stayed. Spring came slowly, fighting winter for every inch. The timber company started their work on the north section, careful and controlled like they had promised. The money went straight to the bank, clearing the loan with enough left over to buy new equipment and expand the herd. Langford tried one more move, spreading rumors that Gideon had gotten the timber money through fraud, that old Ezra had lied on the stand, that the whole case was a setup. But nobody listened. The judge had ruled. The money was clean, and the Wind River Ranch was thriving. Then Langford made his final mistake. He showed up at the ranch one afternoon in early spring, drunk and furious, demanding to see Gideon. Lavinia was alone. Gideon was out checking fence lines. Silas at school. The ranch hands were working the far pastures. "Where is he?" Langford demanded, swaying in his saddle. "Not here." Lavinia stood on the porch, hand resting on the rifle she had learned to use. "You should leave, Mr. Langford." "Should I?" He dismounted clumsily. "You have cost me a lot of money, Mrs. Hale. That ranch should have been mine. It was never yours. Everything in this valley is mine." His voice rose. "I built this territory. I brought civilization here, and now some mail order thinks she can." The rifle came up before Lavinia even thought about it, aimed steady at his chest. "Finish that sentence," she said quietly. "I dare you." Langford froze, eyes widening. For the first time, she saw fear on his face. "You will not shoot me," he said, but his voice wavered. "Will I not? You are drunk on my property, threatening me. I would be within my rights." She took a step forward, rifle never wavering. "But I will give you a choice. Get back on your horse and ride away, or find out if I am bluffing." A long, tense moment. Then Langford backed toward his horse, hands raised. "This is not over," he said. "Yes, it is." Lavinia's voice was still. "You lost. The ranch is ours, the water rights are ours, and you have no more moves to make. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to leave, and you are going to stay away from my family, my ranch, and my town. Because if you come back here, if you threaten anyone I care about again, I will not hesitate. Understand?" He mounted his horse, still staring at her. I said, "Do you understand?" "Yes." The word came out strangled. "Good. Now get off my land." He rode away at a gallop. Lavinia stood on the porch, rifle still raised, until he disappeared over the hill. Then her legs gave out, and she sat down hard, shaking. That was how Gideon found her some time later, sitting on the porch steps, rifle across her knees, crying and laughing at the siptor. "What happened?" He was off his horse before it stopped moving, kneeling beside her. "Lavinia, what?" She told him everything, watched his face go from concern to fury, to something like awe. "You held him at gunpoint," he said. "Yes." "And threatened to shoot him." "Yes." "Would you have done it?" She thought about that. "I do not know. Maybe if he tried to hurt me." "Yes, absolutely." Gideon started laughing, great booming laughs that echoed across the yard. "You are insane. You know that." "Probably." He pulled her to her feet, rifle in one hand, and kissed her hard. "You are also the most magnificent woman I have ever met." I was terrified, did not look it. He took the rifle, checked the safety, leaned it against the porch rail. "Langford will not bother us again. You scared him worse than any court ruling could." "How do you know?" "Because you showed him you are not afraid, and men like him only understand power." He cupped her face. "You are powerful, Lavinia Hale, more than you know." Word spread fast. By Sunday, everyone in Wind River had heard about the confrontation. The church ladies who had whispered about Lavinia now whispered with grudging respect. The ranch hands started calling her Boss Lady when they thought she could not hear. Even the men who had ignored her before tipped their hats when she came to town. Dr. Chen found her at the general store, grinning like a cat. "I heard you faced down Langford with a rifle. News travels fast in this town. Always." Dr. Chen's smile softened. "I also heard you did not shoot him. That took more strength than pulling the trigger would have." "I wanted to," Lavinia admitted. "Of course you did. He is a bastard. But you made the right choice." She squeezed Lavinia's arm. "You are good for this place, good for Gideon, good for all of us." At home, things shifted in quieter ways. Silas started asking Lavinia's opinion on everything. What to wear, how to handle a bully at school, whether a rock he had found was special. Gideon deferred to her on household decisions, ranch finances, even hiring choices. You are better at reading people than I am, he admitted one night over the account books. I am really not. You are. You saw through Langford from the start, knew exactly how to handle Emilio and the kid, even figured out which logging company to trust. He looked at her over the ledger. I used to make all these decisions alone. Now I wait to hear what you think, because your judgment is better than mine. That is not true. It is. He reached across the table, taking her hand. You see things I miss. Connections, possibilities, problems, before they happen. This ranch is better because of you. I am better because of you. Heat crept up her neck. You were doing fine before I got here. I was surviving. There is a difference. He squeezed her hand. I love you, Lavinia. I do not say it enough, but I do. You have changed everything. I love you too. The words still felt new in her mouth, precious, even when you are stubborn and impossible. Especially then. Especially then. Spring brought warmer weather and new calves. The herd was growing. The ranch was profitable. And for the first time in years, Gideon looked at the future without fear. One afternoon, Lavinia was in the garden, another project she had started, turning a patch of bare ground into something useful, when a wagon rolled up the drive. She did not recognize the driver until he got closer. Her stomach dropped. It was James, her mother's hired man from Missouri. She stood slowly, dirt on her hands, heart hammering. James, Miss Lavinia. He climbed down from the wagon, hat in hands. Your mother sent me. It is your sister, Lillian. Fear shot through her. What happened? She is ill. Real bad. Started as a cough, turned into something worse. Doctor says it is pneumonia. James's face was grim. Your mother is asking if you could come home, just for a bit. Lillian has been asking for you. Lavinia's mind spun. Lillian, her beautiful, thoughtless sister who had started this whole mess with her cruel joke. She should feel satisfaction, justice. Instead, she felt sick. How long does she have? The question came out flat. Doctor does not know. Could be days, could be weeks. James shifted uncomfortably. Your mother said to tell you she is sorry for everything. She wants to make things right. After all this time, now she is sorry. People change when death comes knocking. James met her eyes. I am not saying you should go, just delivering the message. Gideon appeared from the barn, taking in the scene. What is going on? Lavinia explained quickly, watched his face close off. You want to go? He said. Not a question. I do not know what I want. She looked at her hands, at the garden she had been planting, at the life she had built. Part of me thinks they do not deserve anything from me after everything they did. But she is your sister. Yes, Gideon was quiet for a moment. Then I will come with you. What? You think I am letting you face them alone? He moved closer. We will go together. Take Silas. Make a trip of it. You can see your family, and I can show them exactly what they gave up when they mocked you. Something fierce and grateful swelled in Lavinia's chest. You would do that. You are my wife. Where you go, I go. He turned to James. When does she need to leave? Soon as possible. We will catch the train tomorrow. The journey east felt surreal, retracing the route Lavinia had taken months ago. But in reverse, everything looked different now. Smaller, less intimidating. She was different too. Silas pressed his face to the train window, asking endless questions. Gideon sat beside Lavinia, solid and steady, hand linked with hers. You nervous? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. Good. Me too. Why are you nervous? Because I am about to meet the people who hurt you, and I am trying real hard not to say something that will make it worse. She squeezed his hand. Just be yourself. That is enough. Missouri was greener than she remembered, softer. The train pulled into the familiar station, and Lavinia's heart clenched. James met them with the wagon, and they rode toward the farmhouse in silence. It looked exactly the same, but also completely different, like seeing a childhood home through adult eyes. Her mother waited on the porch, older, grayer, smaller somehow. Her eyes widened when she saw Lavinia climb down from the wagon. Gideon beside her, Silas holding both their hands. Lavinia, her mother's voice cracked. You came. You asked me to. Lavinia stopped at the bottom of the porch steps, not ready to go closer. How is she? Weak, sleeping most of the time. Her mother's eyes moved over Gideon, assessing. You must be Mr. Hale, ma'am. Gideon's voice was cool, polite. And this is Silas, my son. Your grandson, I suppose. Her mother's face crumpled slightly at that. Will you not come inside, all of you? The house was smaller than Lavinia remembered, darker. She stood in the parlor that had once seemed so fine, and saw the worn furniture, the faded curtains, the genteel poverty her family had been hiding. Eleanor appeared from the kitchen, stopping short when she saw them. Lavinia, you came. Where is Lillian? Upstairs. But Lavinia, you should know. She looks bad. Real bad. Lavinia climbed the stairs to the bedroom she had shared with her sisters. Lillian lay in the bed they had once fought over, pale and thin, breathing shallow. Ivy sat beside her, looking exhausted. Lavinia, Ivy whispered. Thank heaven. Lillian's eyes opened. It took her a moment to focus. Liza, I am here. Lavinia moved to the bedside, taking her sister's hand. It felt like bird bones, fragile and light. I am sorry. Lillian's voice was barely audible. For everything. The advertisement, the jokes, the way we treated you. I am most sorry. Hush, save your strength. No, I need to say it. Lillian's grip tightened. You were right to leave, right to choose your own life. I was jealous. I think jealous that you had the courage to go. Tears burned Lavinia's eyes. You can still go. Get better and go wherever you want. Maybe. But they both heard the lie. Lavinia stayed by Lillian's side for 2 days, reading to her, holding her hand, talking about Wyoming and the ranch and this life she had built. Her mother and sisters hovered, shocked into silence by the transformation. Not in Lavinia's appearance, which was still plain, but in her bearing. She carried herself differently now, spoke with authority, commanded space. On the 3rd day, Gideon found Lavinia in the garden. "Your mother wants to talk to you," he said. They gathered in the parlor, Lavinia, her mother, Eleanor, and Ivy. Lillian was sleeping upstairs, Silas with Gideon in the yard. "I owe you an apology," her mother began, "a real one, for treating you like you did not matter, like you were less than your sisters." "You did treat me that way," Lavinia said quietly. "I know." Her mother's hands twisted in her lap. "And I was wrong. You were never less. I just did not see your strength because it was not the kind I understood." Eleanor spoke up, surprising everyone. "You were always the smartest of us, the most capable. We mocked you because it was easier than admitting we were jealous." "Jealous," Lavinia laughed, but without humor. "Of what? Of how little you needed anyone else? How you could just decide to leave and actually do it?" Ivy's voice was soft. "We are all still here, doing exactly what we have always done. You are the only one who changed anything." Lavinia looked at her sisters, these beautiful women who had once seemed like everything she could never be, and saw them clearly for the first time. They were not happy. They had never been happy. They had just been better at pretending. "I do not need your apologies," she said finally, "but I will accept them anyway, because holding on to anger takes too much energy." Her mother stood, crossed to Lavinia, and pulled her into a fierce hug. "I am proud of you. I should have said it years ago, but I am saying it now. I am so proud of who you have become." Lavinia let herself be held, feeling something old and painful finally release. Lillian died days later, peacefully, with her family around her. They buried her in the family plot, and Lavinia stood at the graveside, thinking about cruelty and forgiveness, and how complicated love could be. At the train station, saying goodbye, her mother pressed a small bag into Lavinia's hands. "What is this?" "The pearl earrings. The ones I would not give you before." Her mother's eyes were wet. "They are yours now. They were always meant to be yours." Lavinia looked at the pearls, beautiful, useless things she had once wanted so badly. Now they just seemed sad. "Keep them," she said gently. "Give them to Eleanor or Ivy. I do not need them anymore." On the train heading west, Silas asleep against her shoulder, Gideon's hand in hers. Lavinia watched Missouri disappear behind them and felt nothing but relief. "You all right?" Gideon asked. "Yes, actually, I am." She leaned into him. "I made peace with it, all of it. And now I am ready to go home. To Wyoming. To our life." She smiled. "To everything we are building together." He kissed her temple. "Then let us go build it." Wyoming greeted them with a late spring storm, snow mixed with rain, wind that rattled the train windows. Silas pressed his face to the glass, excited to be home, while Lavinia watched the familiar landscape emerge from the gray weather and felt something settle deep in her bones. This was home. Not the place she had left, but the place she had chosen. Jasper met them at the station with the wagon, his weathered face creasing into something almost like a smile when he saw them. "Good trip?" he asked, loading their bags. "Long," Gideon said. "How are things here?" "Ran smooth. Emilio handled the calving. Only lost 2. Jasper glanced at Lavinia. "Martha has been asking after you. Said to tell you the women's meeting is soon if you are back in time." Lavinia blinked. "The women's meeting?" "Church ladies. They want you on the planning committee for the summer social." Jasper's expression was carefully neutral. "Martha said to tell you it is not a request." A year ago, those same women had whispered about her behind their hands. Now they wanted her on committees. The irony was not lost on Lavinia. The ranch looked different as they crested the final hill. The new barn stood where the old one had burned, bigger, better built. The house had fresh paint. Even the fence lines looked straighter, more permanent. "We made some improvements while you were gone," Gideon said, watching her face. "Hope you do not mind." "Why would I mind? It is your home too. Should have asked first." She looked at him, this man who still thought he needed permission to improve his own property. "Gideon, this ranch is as much yours as it is mine. You do not need to ask." "Old habits." He helped her down from the wagon. "Sarah used to get angry when I changed things without consulting her. I am not Sarah." "No." He pulled her close right there in front of Jasper and Silas and anyone who might be watching. "You are not. Thank the stars for that." That night after Silas was asleep and they lay tangled together in Gideon's bed, their bed now, no more pretending otherwise, he traced patterns on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How close I came to losing this. You. All of it." His voice was quiet in the darkness. "If Langford had succeeded, if we had lost the water rights case or could not pay the bank, but we did not. We won because of you." His arm tightened around her. I keep trying to figure out how to say this right. How to tell you what you have done for me, for Silas, for this whole place. You do not have to. Yes, I do. He shifted to look at her, propping himself on one elbow. Before you came, I was just existing, going through motions. The ranch was work, Silas was duty, and every day felt like punishment for failing Sarah. Gideon, let me finish. His hand cupped her face. You showed me how to live again, how to fight for something instead of just enduring it. You turned this house into a home, made my son happy, saved the ranch with ideas I never would have thought of. You took everything broken and made it whole. Tears burned her eyes. I did not do it alone. No, but you started it. You had the courage to walk away from everything familiar and build something new. That takes strength I did not know existed. She kissed him, tasting salt from her own tears, feeling his heartbeat steady against her chest. When they broke apart, she whispered, "We saved each other. That is the truth. Then I am the luckiest man alive." Summer came hard and fast, the way it did in Wyoming. Fierce sun following fierce storms, everything growing in bursts. Lavinia's garden flourished, providing vegetables for the house and enough extra to sell in town. She had started keeping chickens, too, much to Silas's delight, and the boy spent hours talking to them like they were people. "Ma says chickens are good listeners," he told Emilio one afternoon, completely serious. Emilio caught Lavinia's eye and grinned. "Your ma is a smart woman." The ranch hands had stopped treating her like an outsider months ago. Now they came to her with problems. Requests for time off, complaints about equipment, even personal troubles. She had become the heart of the operation without quite realizing it. The person everyone turned to when things needed fixing. One afternoon in midsummer, Dr. Chen showed up unannounced, riding in on her sturdy mare. "I need your help," she said without preamble. "With what?" "Teaching. The school teacher is leaving, pregnant, heading back east to her family. We need someone to take over until we can hire a replacement." Dr. Chen dismounted, tying her horse to the rail. "I suggested you." Lavinia stared. "I am not a teacher. You can read and write better than half the territory. You have got patience, intelligence, and you do not take nonsense from anyone." Dr. Chen smiled. Plus, Silas would love having his mother as teacher. "I do not know anything about teaching. Neither did Mrs. Langford when she started, and she managed for years." Dr. Chen's expression turned serious. "Lavinia, this town needs you. These children need someone who will actually care whether they learn. Will you at least think about it?" Lavinia thought about it that night, lying next to Gideon, staring at the ceiling. "You should do it," he said. "You do not think it is too much, managing the house, helping with the ranch, and teaching. I think you could run this entire territory if someone gave you the chance." He rolled to face her. "You are always saying you want to build something that matters. What matters more than teaching children? Plus, Thomas would be so proud of you. He would probably burst." Gideon smiled. "Do it, Lavinia. Show this town what you are capable of." So she did. The schoolhouse was small. One room, 20 students ranging from young children to older ones. Lavinia stood at the front on her first day, looking at their faces, some curious, some skeptical, some openly hostile, and felt her stomach clench. Then Silas, sitting in the front row, gave her a huge grin and a thumbs up. She could do this. "Good morning," she said, voice steady. "My name is Mrs. Hale, and I am your teacher until we find someone permanent. I know some of you are wondering if I am qualified. The answer is no, not really. But I can read, write, and do mathematics. And more importantly, I care whether you learn. So here is how this works. You give me your best effort, and I will give you mine. Fair." A girl in the back raised her hand. "What if we do not want to give our best effort? Then you will sit here bored while everyone else learns interesting things." Lavinia smiled. "Your choice." It was not easy. Some days the older boys tested her, pushing boundaries until she had to pull out the same steel spine she had used on Langford. Other days, the younger children struggled with concepts she thought were simple, and she had to find new ways to explain. But she loved it. Loved watching understanding dawn on a child's face. Loved the way Silas beamed every time she praised his work. Loved feeling useful in a way that went beyond cooking and cleaning. One afternoon, she was helping a struggling student with arithmetic when Mrs. Langford, the former queen bee of the church ladies, appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Hale, may I have a word?" Lavinia's stomach tightened, but she dismissed the students for recess and turned to face the woman who had once mocked her. "How can I help you, Mrs. Langford?" "I wanted to apologize." The words came out stiff, clearly difficult. "For how I treated you when you first arrived. It was unkind." "Yes, it was." Mrs. Langford blinked, clearly expecting polite deflection. Yes. Well, I am sorry." "Why now?" Lavinia asked. "Why apologize after all this time?" "Because my daughter comes home every day talking about how much she loves school, about how Mrs. Hale makes learning fun, how you helped her understand fractions, how you never make her feel stupid." Mrs. Langford's voice warned. "She has never liked school before. You have given her something precious." Lavinia felt her anger dissolve. "Your daughter is very bright. She just needed someone to believe in her. Like you needed someone to believe in you." The question hung between them. "Yes," Lavinia said quietly. "Like that." Mrs. Langford nodded slowly. "Victor, my husband, he is not a bad man, just ambitious, ruthless sometimes. After what you did, standing up to him with that rifle, he has been different, quieter. I think you scared something fundamental into him. I did not mean to." "Do not apologize. He needed it." She moved toward the door, then paused. "You have changed this town, Mrs. Hale. Made it better. I wanted you to know that." After she left, Lavinia stood in the empty schoolhouse, processing. She had come here expecting nothing, wanting only escape. Instead, she had built something that mattered, not just for herself, but for everyone around her. That night at dinner, Silas announced, "Billy Parker says his ma says you are the best teacher Wind River ever had." "Billy Parker's ma is very kind," Lavinia said, hiding a smile. "It is true, though." Silas speared a potato with his fork. "You make school not boring." "High praise," Gideon murmured, eyes dancing. "Pa, can Ma teach forever, even after they find someone permanent?" Gideon looked at Lavinia. "That is up to your ma." Lavinia thought about it, really thought about it. Teaching meant less time for ranch work, less time for the house, more responsibility. But it also meant purpose beyond these four walls. It meant shaping young minds, giving children opportunities they might not otherwise have. "I would like to keep teaching," she said, "if the town will have me." "They will have you," Gideon said with certainty. "They would be fools not to." As summer deepened, the summer social, the event Lavinia had been drafted onto the planning committee for, was held in the church hall with food and music and dancing that lasted until midnight. Lavinia wore a new dress, nothing fancy, but well made, courtesy of fabric Dr. Chen had helped her choose. She stood on the edge of the crowd watching couples dance when Gideon appeared at her elbow. "Dance with me," he said. "I do not know how, neither do I. We will figure it out." He pulled her onto the floor, and they moved clumsily through some approximation of a waltz, both laughing at their own incompetence. Around them, Lavinia saw the townspeople watching, not with mockery this time, but with affection, approval. She had become one of them. "Happy?" Gideon asked, pulling her closer than was probably proper. "Terrifyingly so." She looked up at him. "Sometimes I wake up afraid this is all a dream, that I will be back in Missouri, still invisible, still nobody." "You were never nobody." His voice was fierce. They were just too blind to see what was right in front of them. Maybe. Or maybe I needed to leave to become someone worth seeing. He stopped dancing right there in the middle of the floor and kissed her, long and deep, and completely inappropriate for a church social. When he pulled back, half the room was staring. Lavinia felt her face burn. Gideon, everyone is watching. Good. Let them watch. He kept his arms around her. Let them see how much I love my wife, how proud I am of everything she has accomplished, how she took a broken man and a failing ranch and turned both into something worth having. I did not do it alone. No, but you started it. You had the courage. He touched her face. You are the bravest person I know, Lavinia. Around them, someone started clapping. Then another person and another, until the whole room erupted in applause. Lavinia stood there overwhelmed as the entire town of Wind River celebrated her. Later, sitting outside in the cool night air, Martha joined her on the church steps. Quite a moment in there, Martha said. I do not know what to do with all this, Lavinia admitted. The respect, the admiration. A year ago, these same people whispered about me. A year ago, you were a stranger. Now you are one of us. Martha looked at her. You know what changed? You stopped waiting for permission to matter. You just started mattering. Is it really that simple? Sometimes. Martha stood, brushing off her skirt. Most people spend their whole lives waiting for someone to tell them they are enough. You decided you were enough and acted like it. That is power, Lavinia. Real power. Fall came with the first frost, painting the mountains gold and red. The ranch had its best year on record. Cattle thriving, timber royalties rolling in, debts paid down to almost nothing. Gideon started talking about expansion, buying adjoining land, building a bigger house. We could have a real parlor, he said one night, sketching plans on scrap paper. And a proper study for you. Guest rooms for when your family visits. My family is not visiting, Lavinia said mildly. They might. Eleanor sent another letter. It was true. Her younger sister had been writing regularly since Lillian's death. Tentative letters asking about Wyoming, about ranch life, about whether Lavinia thought Eleanor could make it out west. What should I tell her? Lavinia asked. Tell her the truth. That it is hard and beautiful and unforgiving, that you have to be stronger than you think you are, that it will test everything you thought you knew about yourself. Gideon looked up from his drawings. But also tell her it is worth it. Lavinia wrote back that night, choosing her words carefully. She did not sugarcoat anything. Told Eleanor about the brutal winters, the endless work, the isolation. But she also told her about the freedom, the possibility, the way Wyoming let you become whoever you were brave enough to be. She ended the letter with, if you come, come for yourself. Not to escape, not to chase romance, but to build something real. That is the only way it works. Winter returned as it always did, but this time Lavinia was ready. The house was warm and weatherproof, the storeroom stocked, the cattle secured in near pastures. When the first big storm hit, they barely noticed, just hunkered down together, playing cards and reading books and being family. Silas turned another year older on a cold winter day. They celebrated with cake and presents, and when Lavinia gave him the books she had ordered from Denver, his face lit up like Surai's. For me, all of them. I thought my son should have his own library. The words slipped out naturally. My son. Gideon caught her eye across the table, and the look on his face made her throat tight. That night, after Silas was asleep, Gideon found her in the kitchen. "He started calling you Ma full-time now," he said. "Even when you are not around. Yesterday he told Emilio, my ma, like it is the most natural thing in the world. Does that bother you?" "Bother me." He pulled her close. "Lavinia, it is one of the best things that has ever happened, watching him have a mother again, seeing how much he loves you." His voice cracked. "You have given him something I could not. You gave him everything. I just added to it. You gave him a family." He kissed her forehead. "You gave us both a family." They stood there in the warm kitchen holding each other, and Lavinia thought about how far she had come. From invisible daughter to ranch wife to teacher to mother. Each role building on the last, each one revealing strength she had not known she possessed. Spring came again, completing a full cycle of seasons. The ranch hands prepared for calving. The school year continued. Life moved in the rhythms Lavinia had learned to anticipate. One morning in late winter, she woke feeling nauseated. It passed quickly, but returned the next day, and the next. Dr. Chen confirmed it a week later, eyes twinkling. "You are pregnant. About 6 weeks, I would say." Lavinia sat in stunned silence. "Is this good news?" Dr. Chen asked gently. Yes, I think so. She laughed shakily. "I did not think it would happen." "Why not? You are healthy, young enough, clearly not having trouble in the bedroom." Dr. Chen grinned at Lavinia's blush. "This is good news. Gideon will be over the moon." But telling Gideon turned out to be harder than expected. She waited for the right moment, then could not find it. Finally, one evening, when Silas was at a friend's house, she just blurted it out. "I am pregnant." Gideon froze, coffee cup halfway to his mouth. "What? Pregnant?" Dr. Chen confirmed it. "About 6 weeks." The cup clattered onto the table. For a long moment, Gideon just stared at her. Then his face crumpled, and he started crying. Great gasping sobs that shook his whole body. Lavinia rushed to him, terrified. "Gideon, what is wrong? If you do not want, do not want." He grabbed her hands, tears streaming down his face. Lavinia, I thought I would never have this again. Another child. A family after Sarah." He could not finish. "Hey." She knelt in front of him, wiping his tears. "We are going to be fine. All of us. You cannot know that." "No, but I can choose to believe it." She pressed his hand to her still flat stomach. "This baby is wanted and loved. That is a good start." He kissed her then, tasting of salt and coffee and hope. "I am terrified." "Me too. But we are terrified together." Silas took the news with characteristic enthusiasm, immediately planning everything the baby would need, and announcing to everyone in town that he was going to be a big brother. The pregnancy was normal, uncomfortable at times, exhausting often, but Dr. Chen said everything looked healthy. Lavinia kept teaching until she started showing too much, then stayed home and helped manage the ranch finances from the kitchen table. Summer brought heat and her belly swelling until she felt like a barn. Gideon hovered constantly, driving her crazy with concern. "I am pregnant, not dying," she snapped one afternoon when he tried to stop her from hanging laundry. "I know, but nothing. I am fine. The baby is fine. Stop treating me like I will break." He backed off, hands raised in surrender. But she caught him watching her sometimes with an expression of such raw fear that it broke her heart. One night in early fall, she woke him from sleep. "Talk to me," she said, "about what you are really afraid of." In the darkness, he was silent for a long time. Then, "That I will lose you like I lost her. That this baby will take you from me. That I will be alone again with 2 children and no idea how to be enough for them. That is not going to happen. You do not know that. Sarah was fine until she was not. One day she was pregnant and complaining about back pain. The next she was dying, and there was nothing I could do. I am not Sarah." Lavinia's voice was firm. "My body is different. This pregnancy is different. And if something does go wrong, Dr. Chen is better prepared than whoever delivered Sarah. We have options now. No buts." She took his face in her hands. "Gideon, I need you to trust me. Trust that I know my own body. Trust that I will ask for help if I need it. Can you do that?" He exhaled shakily. "I will try." "Good, because this baby is coming whether we are ready or not, and I need you present for it, not paralyzed by fear." The labor started on a cool fall morning, almost 2 weeks before Dr. Chen expected. Gideon immediately went white, but Lavinia stayed calm. "Send Silas to Martha's," she directed. "Then get Dr. Chen. Do not rush. We have time." The labor lasted many hours, long, painful, exhausting hours, where Lavinia understood viscerally why women died doing this. But Dr. Chen was competent and encouraging, and Gideon held her hand through every contraction, whispering reassurances, even though his face was gray with terror. Finally, as the sun set, a baby's cry filled the room. "It is a girl," Dr. Chen announced, laying the squirming, angry bundle on Lavinia's chest. Lavinia looked down at her daughter, red-faced and furious and absolutely perfect, and felt everything inside her rearrange. This tiny person, this miracle, was hers. "She is beautiful," Gideon whispered, touching the baby's head with one finger. "Perfect." "She is angry," Lavinia laughed, exhausted, already mad at the world. "She will fit right in with this family then." They named her Nora, after no one in particular, just because it felt right. She had Gideon's gray eyes and Lavinia's stubborn chin, and from day one, she ruled the household with an iron fist wrapped in soft baby skin. Silas was instantly besotted, hovering over her cradle like a protective dragon. The ranch hands brought gifts, carved toys, soft blankets, promises to teach her to ride when she was old enough. Even Martha got misty-eyed holding her. "You did good, Lavinia. Real good." But it was watching Gideon with his daughter that undid Lavinia completely. The way he held her like she was made of glass. The way he sang off-key lullabies at odd hours. The way he looked at Lavinia with such gratitude and love, it made her ache. "Thank you," he said one night, watching Nora sleep in her cradle. "For what? For this? For her? For giving me a second chance at everything I thought I had lost." He pulled Lavinia close. "For being brave enough to say yes to a stranger's letter and stubborn enough to stay when it got hard. For turning my life into something worth living." "We turned it into something worth living," she corrected. "Together." Winter that year was mild, or maybe it just felt that way, because Lavinia was too busy to notice. Nora grew fast, smiling early, reaching for things with chubby hands. Silas started helping with evening feeding, proud of his big brother duties. The ranch continued thriving. The school welcomed Lavinia back when she was ready. Life settled into something that felt like contentment. One afternoon in early spring, just over 2 years since she had stepped off that train, Lavinia stood on the porch watching Gideon and Silas work with a new colt. Nora dozed in her arms, the picture of peace around her. The ranch bustled with familiar noise, the ranch hands calling to each other, cattle lowing in the distance, the wind rushing through the pines. This was her life, the one she had built from nothing, from a cruel joke and a desperate gamble. Dr. Chen rode up, dismounting with practiced ease. "Just checking on Nora, making sure she is thriving. See for yourself." Lavinia handed over the baby, who immediately grabbed Dr. Chen's finger. Strong grip. She is going to be tough. Dr. Chen smiled. Like her mother. I am not tough. I am just... Do not. Dr. Chen's voice was gentle but firm. Do not diminish what you have accomplished. You came here with nothing, no support, no guarantee it would work, no safety net, and you built all this. She gestured at the ranch, the family, everything. That takes courage most people do not have. Lavinia looked at the life surrounding her, messy and imperfect and absolutely real, and felt something settle deep in her chest. She had not changed who she was. She had just stopped apologizing for it. That night, after the children were asleep and the house was quiet, Gideon found her in the parlor, the real parlor now, the one they had built, with proper furniture and curtains and books lining the walls. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, settling beside her. How different everything is from what I expected. She leaned into him. When I got on that train, I thought I was escaping, running away from being nobody. And now I know I was never nobody. I was just in the wrong place, surrounded by people who could not see me. She looked at him. You saw me, Gideon, from the very first letter. You saw something worth having. I saw someone strong enough to survive anything. I just did not know how strong until you got here and proved it every single day. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the house settle around them. Outside, Wyoming wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and possibility. "Do you ever regret it?" Lavinia asked, answering that advertisement. Taking a chance on a woman you had never met. "Every day," Gideon said seriously. Her heart stopped. "What?" "I regret not finding you sooner." He smiled, pulling her closer. "I regret all those years I spent thinking I was fine, alone. I regret that you had to waste years with people who did not appreciate you. But answering that letter, marrying you, best decision I ever made." Lavinia kissed him slow and deep, tasting home and future and everything she had never dared to hope for. "I love you," she whispered. "My impossible, stubborn, wonderful man. I love you too." He rested his forehead against hers. "My fierce, brilliant, unstoppable wife." Years would pass. Nora would grow up riding horses and reading books and refusing to let anyone tell her what she could not do. Silas would take over ranch operations, proving himself every bit his father's son. The Wind River Ranch would expand, becoming one of the most successful operations in the territory. And Lavinia would teach generations of children, shaping minds and hearts and futures. People would tell her story. The mail-order bride who became a force to be reckoned with. The plain daughter who proved worth was not measured in beauty. The woman who took a cruel joke and turned it into a legacy. But sitting there in her parlor, held by the man she loved, listening to her children breathe in their beds upstairs, Lavinia knew the real truth. She had not become someone new. She had just finally become herself. And that was worth everything. The woman no one wanted became the woman everyone needed, not because she changed her face or became someone different, but because she stopped waiting for permission to matter and simply chose to matter instead. That was the only magic she had ever needed.